What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome day today. What a crazy and wild week it has been for Bitcoin. We're basically back at the levels since the last time I made a video. You can see right here, Bitcoin was hanging around the $9,500 level. We had a massive breakout out of the key resistance. We got all the way up to almost $10,200, only to be revisited by our good old buddy BART Simpson. We had a dump all the way down to $9,260, and we're basically at the same exact levels that we were several days ago. So what is going on? Was this manipulation? Well, if you're new to crypto, you're gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn today. You're gonna learn today.
But outside of possible manipulation, I do want to talk about the fact that if you have not seen it yet, we did in fact put in our first red dot on the stock to flow model. Now keep in mind, the last two times we did this after the previous halvings, the next month we did put in a higher price for Bitcoin. So is history going to repeat itself, or is it completely different? Well, we have heard people saying that it was basically Donald Trump that pumped the price of Bitcoin. He came out, he made his speech, 15 minutes later, the price of Bitcoin pumped, but currently the price of Bitcoin is back down around where it was again. So was that just a bull trap? Well, I do want to talk about a possible golden cross on a chart that I bet you no one is looking at right now. We're going to get into that. That could actually be bullish for Bitcoin. And I also want to go into some shocking data from Bitcoin miners, which might actually kind of explain what we're seeing right now in the charts. However, there is some positives to the end of that, and also big news from Canada. So if you're interested in all that, definitely stick around. We are going to give away our Ledger Nano S at the end of today's video. And if you're new to the channel, definitely stick around, get subscribed, and without further ado, let's dive in. So having a look right here, we had this massive fake out. You can see we finally broke out of the resistance over here. We got all the way up to actually $10,560 on CME futures, and we had a fake out all the way back down. And you can actually see right now, we still are sitting at the top of the resistance. So it could have just been a move to kind of shake out the weak hands, right? There was a lot of liquidations, I'm sure. Although the reason that it does scream of manipulation is because the volume was extremely low. So we do have to keep our eyes on what is happening right now. It is the middle of the week. There is still plenty of time for CME to make their move. If they do break out to the upside, then I do think that that was just basically a move to shake out the weak hands. You can see over here, we are actually still above both of the major resistances, the one that ended on the weekly close back in the all-time high of December of 2017, as well as the all-time high itself. And you can see that we closed above both of those right here. And we are still technically putting in a green candle, even though we do have a very high wick to the upside, which is really technically not bullish. It does show there's a lot of selling pressure, but we are still above it. And as long as we can maintain basically above the $9,000 level, and we also, if we take sort of the wicks, you have the $9,500 level. Staying above that technically is still actually bullish. Do we have some room to the downside? Of course we do, but I do want to really quick mention, you may have seen this, but we did put in a red dot on the stock to flow. Basically, this just represents really just the first month on the stock to flow model. Doesn't really technically mean anything. However, if you do want to look at past performance, each consecutive month after that, we did put in a higher price for Bitcoin. So not saying it'll happen again, but it is something to consider. Also want to point out the fact that we did talk about our crazy Amazon fractal in the last video, where Bitcoin was essentially following Amazon chart almost exactly. So some people are saying, oh, well, we had the breakout, it got rejected, that was it. Actually, no, we didn't have the breakout according to this chart. What we saw yesterday, if we actually zoom out, it's only this right here. That whole, this whole BART Simpson thing that we're looking at right here, if we actually zoom to the daily chart, it's basically just this right here. It is a very, very small move on the daily chart. And the thing that is most notable is that we actually got held down right here by the heart line. So really, when you look on the daily chart, not much has changed. It doesn't really look that crazy. We still are putting in higher lows. We just simply got rejected at the center or the heart line of the ascending trend. So actually not much has changed. Basically, it was just a fake out. And yeah, some people got caught on the wrong side of the trade. Having a look right here, though, if we look at the CME chart, chart. Now keep in mind, there's two charts you want to look at. The spot chart, which is charts that trade, like Bitstamp, Binance, things like that. They trade 7 days a week. And then you also want to look at the CME chart, which only trades 5 days a week, which is why if you notice that having a look right here, we're putting in a very similar situation that we put in down here, also right here, where we're dancing on the 200 daily moving average. Now, keep in mind, we have been supported by the 200 daily moving average here several times, and being above that level is considered bullish in traditional markets. I would consider this to be a traditional chart. The second thing I want to point out is having a look right here where we had this peak right back in June of 2019. We also had in February of this year where we hit the resistance. Well, if I zoom in right here, we are actually staying on top of this resistance, and this resistance is now acting as support. So even if Bitcoin was to trend down even to the low $8,000 levels, if we stay above this resistance, that still is technically bullish. And I also just want to point out the fact that we are still in a descending broadening wedge. You can see every time Bitcoin has a move, these moves basically keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It's like an ascending giant megaphone heading downwards. And just so you know, this does have a textbook breakout to the upside 80% of the time. And we do have a target of around $15,500, not to mention the fact that could we actually reach those levels? Now, I'm not trying to get crazy bullish. Look, it could be time to cool off, but I do want to point out that actually if we zoom in right here, we actually have a CME futures gap right here between August 9th of 2019 and August 12th of 2019. And in order to close that little tiny gap on the daily, we would have to pump to $11,795. So just keep that in the back of your mind. We don't know for sure, but I do want to talk about the fact that we have a potential golden cross that no one is talking about right now, a double golden cross, and this is over on the CME chart. No one's really paying attention to this chart for some reason, and you can see right here, we actually have the 50 looking to cross above the 100 and the 200, and the 100 looking to cross above the 200. So you can see right here, if I just draw these lines out, now we're just going to kind of take these curves the way that they're already moving. So if we take the 50 right here, we just imagine it's going to continue somewhere this way, right? We take the 100 right here and we move this over this way. So that's our first golden cross. And then we figure the 200's probably going to not move too much. It's a larger average. So that average is just going to kind of go sideways, something like this right here. And that's actually going to give us 2 golden crosses, and we do know that golden crosses are actually bullish for the charts. Now, granted, sometimes when they happen, like the day that they happen, you will see some manipulation. You will see some stuff like this going on because, smart whales try to shake people out of the markets, but ultimately, they are bullish for Bitcoin. I also want to talk about the fact that Bitcoin has been respecting these two trends between the top resistance and the bottom support, also well above the 200 weekly moving average. So let's be realistic, guys. Let's say let's say that was it. The bulls had their rally. Bitcoin needs to take a cool off, right? Well, look, if we do respect the fact that we've stayed basically on this trend right here, let's say Bitcoin does come down and retest the bottom of this. We're obviously not going to go straight down, okay, guys? We're going to go sideways. So having something like this, maybe Bitcoin comes down here and Bitcoin sees 7,000. Maybe we have a scam wick to the bottom. So Bitcoin sees 6,600, something like we had back here before getting pulled back up. And then I do think we would continue back and bounce around to the end of this trend, which literally would bring us to the end of this year. So no matter what, guys, by the end of this year, if you can stick it out to December, end of this year, January, beginning of next year, you are looking for that massive breakout. And if we do have one more crazy dump down to this low side, if we do for this descending broadening wedge, which I don't think we'll go down that far unless it just turns out to be some giant scam wick, I imagine that the breakout is going to be absolutely massive, potentially even breaking the previous all-time highs. And one other reason why I want to mention how we could actually break those levels is having a look right here at the VPVR. You could see basically after the $10,200 level, it falls off a cliff. And that is exactly where we had our resistance, right where we got rejected. You could see right here, Look, right here we jut out, and after that it basically just goes sideways, and we don't start to get any resistance until around the 11,300, and major resistance, would you know where it happens? Right around the $11,800 level that we have the CME futures gap. So there you guys go. That's pretty crazy. So let me know what you think. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Is that it? Are you throwing in the towel? I'm still long-term bullish. I do think that there may be some shakeout in the process, but as long as we continue to put in these higher lows, Bitcoin is still trending upwards, and it really doesn't matter what's happening on the short term. Even on the CME, you can see we have put in a short-term higher high, even with that fake out. So just keep that in mind, guys, moving forward. And I also want to point out that on the yearly time frame, Bitcoin is showing a clear rise in daily active addresses, number one, also in trading volume, and an up and down social volume. Now, this is data from Santiment. They say, though this price could hold and push Bitcoin towards 11,000 and beyond, the short-term monthly is more of a small decline. So I know everybody's excited. I know we all think we're going to the moon, but guys, we've been over 10,000 a lot of times. And keep in mind that Bitcoin has only stayed above $10,000 for roughly about 5% of its entire history ever. So this is a really critical level to watch right now for Bitcoin. One thing I want to point out, though, this was really blew my mind. So basically, this is from Connor Brown, and he says the last week, Bitcoin miners have sold 673 more Bitcoin than were generated. We are seeing capitulation from inefficient miners, but prices are holding steady. In fact, prices are going up. So think about this. So miners that had stashes of Bitcoin have actually been selling to essentially pay for their costs, capitulating, and the price is stable. And it's actually going up. So he says, what do you think happens when these miners are finally shaken out? When these miners finally do not have any more Bitcoin to sell? Can you say explosive move, guys? I think that's probably what's happening. And, you know, you can see right here, Dave the Wave, he points out that though a short-term correction may be on the cards, the longer term is looking super bullish. Weekly MACD well situated for cyclical move up as compared to the last time. And if that's not enough, I do have to just unfortunately bring up some of the geopolitical issues that are going on right now. Crazy times, by the way, with all of these riots and the looting. It's definitely upsetting. Some of these videos are just really hard to watch. You know, some people saying conspiracy, this and that. You guys know I don't really get into that on the channel. I try to just stick to what we have in front of us. And what I can say is the last time that we saw the yuan's price drop as low as it is right now, we had a massive Bitcoin pump. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was over 23 or 25%. Well, guess what? Now we have the People's Bank of China intervening to set the yuan's daily central party rate more robust into onshore spot markets. So even though it has looked like it's recovered, they are saying that it looks like it's a bit artificial. In fact, we have analysts over at Goldman Sachs, I know, right? Take everything they say with a grain of salt, pinch of salt, wherever you're from. People criticize how I say that. Anyway, they say in a note published Sunday evening that the rising U.S.-China tensions could actually lead the yuan further lower in the next 3 months, which, not saying that history would play out again, but the last time it was very bullish for Bitcoin. Also, not to mention the fact that we are seeing even more interest from Bitcoin, not just from these crazy financial, like Paul Tudor Jones, right? Like seeing these big name guys, but now we're just seeing people like Joseph Kahn. So he's a music director. He's worked with a bunch of pop stars. He worked with Lady Gaga, 50 Cent, Eminem, Taylor Swift, and he recently even just came out and said he's been investing in crypto, and he's actually up 6%, and it looks like he's mostly in Bitcoin, followed by Ethereum and a little bit of Litecoin. And he does have some US dollar as well, maybe USDC, I'm not too sure. The other thing I want to point out is JP Morgan Chase has reportedly agreed to pay $2.5 million to settle a class action lawsuit filed against them for allegedly overcharging customers who were buying cryptocurrencies. This is interesting. So basically they were overcharging people buying cryptos because the transactions were classified as cash advances as part of the deal. They didn't actually admit to doing wrongdoing 62,000 people, but they did agree to pay 95% of the fees, which cost them $2.5 million. And we have big news for Canada. Now, this news does come with a catch. I'll get to it, but cryptocurrency exchanges and payment processors are now legally recognized as money service businesses within Canada. So this just legitimizes the stance of cryptocurrencies, legitimizes cryptocurrency exchanges in Canada. However, here is the catch. Canadian crypto firms must now report all transactions exceeding 10,000 Canadian dollars and register and comply with the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada. So with the legitimacy also comes the lack of privacy, but you had to expect that moving forward. I mean, of course you could still use, decentralized exchanges. Lower liquidity, a lot harder to get into with a fiat on-ramp, but that is always a possibility. And before we go, Max Kaiser says, Bitcoin trading higher as the world collectively figures out the only way to beat the system is with Bitcoin and individual sovereignty. And on that note, guys, I do think it is time to give away our ledger. Actually, we need to go to our random number generator. I forgot to do that. So 1 out of 5, let's do it now, generate. So that is number 3. All right, so we go to 1, 2, 3. So that was the Bitcoin demand skyrocketing proof video. So I will copy this, come over here to our YouTube random picker. Drum roll, please. Okay, Ledger, you got it. I don't even know. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I don't know how to pronounce. You're the winner, Dom. Dom, you are the winner. Ledger, I mean, hey, it wasn't a very exciting comment, but it was a comment, so you do win the Ledger Nano S. And yeah, that's basically it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great week. I am most likely going to be doing updates now every day. But, sometimes I got to take days off, guys. I'm a human being, just like everybody else. That's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I do this. For the most part, I try every single day. That's it for me. My name's K-Dub. This is CryptoZombie. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.